Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Closing with Corey podcast, episode number 10. When I started this podcast out, I thought to myself, and I've even kind of talked through it on a couple of other episodes where I had no idea where this was going to go. I had no idea what kind of information I was going to be drawn to and connected to and what people wanted to even really hear me talk about. I did know that when I got to episode number 10, I wanted to at least try out and have my first guest on the podcast. I've thought about this since day one, that it only made sense to me to bring on the person who got me started in the world of real estate. He goes by the name of Jay Gumnitz. I've known him for going on almost, 10 years now. Developed a great friendship. I always take away and extract some great information and some great motivation every single time that him and I get on a phone call and talk a little bit. So I thought it was going to be awesome to at least be able to sit down, catch up with him a little bit. This is going to be a great one for you to listen to all the way through. So again, I hope you guys enjoy. This is episode number 10 with Jay Gumnitz. Obviously, thank you, number one, for taking the time, Mr. Jay Gumnitz.
Yes, sir.
If I've been doing this podcast for a little bit, and I said to myself that episode number 10, I wanted to have my first guest on the podcast. And I thought to myself, who better to have than the guy who basically got me into real estate, which is obviously yourself. But before we go into anything, I got to give you your accolades real quick. If you guys don't know who this man is, it's New Jersey's RE/MAX number one individual agent, top 1% RE/MAX worldwide, top 20 ranked U.S. RE/MAX agent, top 18 in the U.S. for 2022 out of 125,000 agents, featured on HGTV's House Hunters, RE/MAX Central's number one ranked individual agent since 2016, and the Circle of Excellence recipient since 2013. So...
Damn, you read off my signature on my email.
I looked at it. I said, between your email, between the Zillow, between everything, I was like, there's too much stuff to write down. But I just think that it's important because you're a humble person, So I wanted to at least set the stage to where people can obviously look up and stuff. But I mean, there's in my eyes, you're one of the best that is doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
And I think that this conversation is good. And I think too, because conversations like this, obviously, I'll be honest with you, are going to help me out tremendously. Maybe even for you, talking about certain things. But then for people that listen to it, whether it's a lender, whether it's a buyer, a seller, friends, family, regardless, every time I talk to you, I learn something. So I'm like, let me get you on a podcast so then people can listen to it and go through everything. So I kind of wanted to start out just talking about how you got into real estate briefly and what year that was and kind of what your mindset was getting into it.
Right. So, as you know, we were doing the whole DJ thing, right? So this was probably back, I want to say, 2012 or so.
Yeah.
Where, my wife actually got into real estate first. So she was a realtor working with some of the teams out here.
Okay.
And she was kind of like, you know what, Jay, you might want to consider this, because I was in finance, doing the Wall Street thing, and it really wasn't for me. I was sitting behind a desk all day, and I'm like, I feel like I can offer more to the world. Right. So I was like, let me try it. So that was back in 2012.
Okay. So 2012, you got into it. I don't remember what year it was, but all I remember was that you were DJing and emceeing a wedding, and I was doing the production for you. Yes. And you were DJing probably for about 200 people, and then you had your second laptop open, and you were doing a home search. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
You got to be careful, because some of my brides that I helped with the wedding might be listening, and they're like, wait, were you rocking my wedding, or were you writing offers?
Well, that's why too. I was like, before I even mention the venue that we were at, I'll keep it very, very broad. But I was just like, what's going on?
There may have been a few times where real estate is all about timing, right? Mm-hmm. You can't say, I'll get you that offer tomorrow. You got to submit it tonight. So whether it's during main course or cocktail hour, if I had to hit an offer real quick.
Right.
But again, that just made me think wow, this is like a natural high, right? I'm doing something I love. I'm DJing. Now I'm also putting deals together for friends looking to buy houses. Yeah. And I was like, how can I capture this and make this a lifestyle?
Yeah, yeah. And that goes into what I wanted to say. So your first year, 2012, do you remember how many homes you sold that year?
I want to say it was probably maybe 17 to 20.
But okay, but for your first year,
because there's something called Circle of Excellence, right? So to qualify for that, and I qualified for bronze that year. Okay. So I think you need at least a certain amount. I don't know if it's 12 to 15.
Yeah.
So it was at least enough to qualify for that bronze level.
Yeah.
So.
But even for your first year, though, to be able to, number one, qualify for that, but regardless of that award, to be able to sell that many homes for your first year, because me going into it, I dealt with the same struggles I think that you did, and then I took your advice as far as reaching out to the people and letting them know, what I'm kind of getting into. And I just realized that it was a process and it wasn't going to happen overnight or even the first 6 months or even for me, the first year really. But that's crazy to hear that you did that amount of business. I mean, actually, it's not crazy, but it's just.
Yeah, but don't forget, I service the area that I grew up in, and I think this is something I told you about, which was a huge benefit for me.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not like I implanted myself into Bridgewater.
Right.
And I'm like, all right, let me go meet as many people as I can. Hopefully they trust me enough to let me help with the process.
Yeah.
So I'm reaching out to friends that I've known since I'm a kid.
Right.
Their friends, their families, their parents, their cousins. It's like it's a familiar face and I know the area.
Yeah.
So that was an easy switch.
For me, did you deal with any not even pushback, but I look back on it and I used to feel a certain way. Like if I got into real estate, I told everybody, and then next thing you know, like I saw, a friend or some like an acquaintance, buy a house or close on their house, and I'm like, dude, I'm an agent. Why would you use me? Like, did you in the beginning at least, did you feel that way at all? Or for me, looking back on it, I understood because I'm like, all right, I literally just announced that I just got into real estate, so maybe I wouldn't have been the person to trust with that purchase at that time, obviously.
Correct.
No,
I think so. I think in any business, really, especially any type of sales business, there's almost more failure than success.
Right.
And I think that kind of shapes who you are. You learn and you grow from it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, of course. I totally been in positions where I'm like, wait a minute, you know I'm a realtor. You were just asking me to send you some houses.
Right.
Why are you posting on Facebook that you just bought a house with this guy I've never even heard of?
Right. Yeah.
So you learn a lot about people, but ultimately you just don't give up. You know, you stay persistent. You keep trying to be that obvious choice.
Yeah. No, and I mean that's something that I've stuck with for a long time. Like that, those little things that just paid dividends over the years of me thinking back to those conversations that we had, and just makes a lot more sense in those times of failure to be like, all right, I more so than anything, I understand what I did wrong here. Let me correct it so I don't do the same thing.
Well, I think that's important. You find out, even at a listing appointment, you don't hear back from the seller, and then you see it hit the market.
Right.
And you're like, wait a minute, like we had this great conversation.
Right.
But yet you don't even give me the courtesy of letting me know what happened.
Yeah.
So like, you almost want to reach back and say, look, I appreciate the opportunity. I'm glad you gave me a chance to do it. I see you hired someone else. That agent's great too.
Right.
Can you give me a little bit of feedback of why we couldn't make this work between us?
Yeah.
You take that and you grow from it.
Yeah.
So,
and that was even something too that I had here as far as like, not even when you first started, but going into maybe even currently, if you have situations when you go on those listing appointments that are either, I don't want to say like nightmare stories because you probably don't deal with too many of those, but those times where you thought it was a done deal, and then to your point, like you said, then you either don't hear back or it gets listed or whatever it is. But I'm sure as you've established yourself as that obvious choice, I'm sure maybe those were more happening in the beginning of your career to where.
Yeah, I think it's all about kind of finding yourself and your role and who you are comfortably.
Yeah.
Like in sales or really any type of business, you want to see how quickly you can adjust to the person in front of you. Right. Like we both have that DJing sales background, right? We meet a bride and groom. We see the type of people they are within the first 2 minutes, and you have to adjust to get on their level.
Yeah.
Right. You become friends within the first 5 minutes, and then the rest of that appointment should hopefully be pretty convenient because you're just talking to a friend at that point.
Yeah.
And being able to adapt to their situation helps them feel more comfortable with you as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's been situations where I felt totally out of place with some of these sellers, and I'm struggling to find a way, like, what can I put out there to connect us so they could put their guard down and stop looking at me as like this scumbag sales guy.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm here to help you guys get to the next level. Like you called me.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point too, because I didn't even think that a seller is going to have that guard up because a lot of the times, and maybe the first 3 agents that came in just had their sales hat on, and they were just basically just trying to showcase everything salesy wise as far as the process of selling your home, rather than going the approach that you said as far as more so trying to develop that connection and to develop that trust ahead of time, so they could let their guards down to be like, okay, now let's actually have a conversation as far as what we can do here.
Yeah, and everybody's different. Everyone has their own strategies and their own persona, and it's just a matter of finding that connection with you and who you're sitting in front of.
Yeah. No, definitely. Was there a time, or can you remember where you, number one, like just saw your confidence become developed within real estate, and then also like where you finally thought to yourself like, I can do that. Like I can basically not only make a career out of this, but I can also just completely take over in a sense as far as this market and within like this business.
Yeah, I think when you gain more and more knowledge and you truly believe in your product, I feel like that's a big part of anybody's success, right?
Yeah.
Like when you don't have to fake it anymore.
Right.
Like when you could talk the talk, when you could talk about facts and strategies, and you're genuinely believing what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That comes across, as authentic to whoever you're meeting with, whether it's a buyer or a seller, and then ultimately they feel that from you.
Yeah.
I
think like for me in the beginning, and probably where I was struggling was that I was trying to like sell a story, and then eventually I was selling like my own story, and like I was selling my own experiences, and I was selling my own, issues that came up. So like when they were asking questions, I was able to like put myself into like that first person point of view to say, oh yeah, I dealt with something like that. Here's how I kind of handled that, instead of like kind of like going off into like, well, what we could do is we can do this and that. It was more so establishing the fact like I've handled this, like, so don't even worry about that. That's something that I've taken care of. I've already experienced, so I have a little bit more knowledge in that field.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's the customer wants to see, how does this value me, right? They're kind of like, well, what are you going to do for me? Yeah. But when you've had those experiences and you could speak to it through the experience, it makes them more comfortable to choose you and work with you. Yeah. Just to get like an idea, because right now we are in mid-March, but as far as like production, as far as what you have going on right now, because I know for me, with the amount of deals, with the amount of listings, with the amount of buyers, what is an average productivity right now looking like, but the things that are pending with your listings, just because I always think to myself how you do what you do, right? Just being just an individual, basically. Yeah. So I mean, I'll be honest with you, and I'm just different in the way I approach my business. I've never been the type to really look too much into stats. Like, I don't set a goal for myself. Yeah. Whereas, I have to make this many calls per day. I hope I have to sell this many homes per month. Right. I kind of just wake up, do my thing as good as I can each day. Yeah. And then at the end of the year, I kind of say, all right, where did I fall? Right. So I don't really know where I'm at, each month, each day with things like that. So, I know I'm having, a pretty good year so far. Yeah. But I can't tell you, I've done 30 homes, 40 homes, and 10 pending, 20 pending. I'm really not sure. Like every day I wake up, like, what can I do next, to better myself, to help clients, and just everything I did yesterday, it kind of resets. Yeah. And I think that's the gift and the curse, right? No, for sure. And then like for you, like when you do try to analyze towards the end of the year, has there ever been a time of things that you have done within that year that stuck out to you? Like, oh wow, like this was what really was like a key pivotal point in my success this year, or this worked against me? Was there anything that ever really, again, just like stood out to you as far as being like a key ingredient to that success? I think at one point I remember like when Zillow was, a little bit more popular, and you'd see like, oh, how many homes sold in the past 12 months? And, I finally hit that like 100 sales in the last 12 months. I was like, damn. I always, like when I first started, I would look at teams that were like, 95 homes in a year. I'm like, damn, that's a lot. Right. And then all of a sudden, like 1 year, I think it may have been like 2017 or 2018, I refreshed Zillow on my profile, and I'm like, damn, I hit 100 homes in the last 12 months. I was like, maybe I could be relevant, in this whole space of real estate. Right. So that was kind of like, that's great, but how do I now maintain that? Right. And that's the thing. Like you close a $2 million deal, the next day you wake up, you don't have that anymore. Right. What are you doing today? Yeah. At what point is it like, when can I enjoy what I've built and actually balance it? Yeah. That's the struggle. Yeah, I think for me, there was a point where I think it was like the second or third, probably the second year in real estate, where I was doing an open house for my listing. I had a buyer come in that wanted to place an offer on the listing, and then wanted to also sell their home. And then within that buyer, they referred me to their parents whose home I was going to sell. And then from those parents, they referred me to like another person. And like within one day, I had like 6 leads. And then I remember feeling like that, like you said, like that high almost of being like, oh my goodness, like I could really
like do something like this,
Yeah.
and I can sustain this. And then I did the thing that you're not supposed to do, and then I just wasn't focusing on continuing to get clients, continuing to grow business. You know, having somebody else sit in an open house just because I was trying to go out and do showings, and I just realized that it takes a lot to keep things maintained, and it just to be able to maintain number one, the level of business, and then the amount of work that goes into keeping everything going,
Right.
you know, along the way.
It's tough to keep everybody happy.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
You want to provide that same exceptional level of service
Right.
at all times. And that becomes a challenge when you start spreading it out over,
Yeah.
20 to 30 clients at a time.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's nothing better than being that family's realtor.
Right.
Right. You sell the kids the home. They trust you enough to refer the parents and the uncles.
Right,
And then
right.
you're just that go-to.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that to me is something I don't take, for granted. You earn that, you sustain that, and you prove why you're that choice for that family.
Yeah.
And that's a natural high right there.
Yeah, no,
Sure.
100%. And then even talking about that, as far as you always want to be able to keep everybody happy. You obviously, you're married, you got 2 kids. So how is the work-life balance situation? And
So funny you ask. That's something that I try to work on every day.
Yeah.
Because, ultimately when we look back at what did we really do? What defines success, right?
Right.
Is it the money? Is it keeping your wife happy? Is it keeping your kids happy? Is it being present? All of that you need to balance all of that together.
Yeah.
And there's no direct way to do that other than trial and error.
Right.
Like I don't sit in an office per se.
Yeah.
Right. So like anytime I'm not on appointments, I'm home.
Yeah.
Right. Because I want to be home. I want to be there to help my wife with anything around the house. I want to be present for my kids. But although I'm home, my phone is my office.
Right.
So there are times where, yes, I'm staring at my phone and my daughter's screaming at me, "Daddy, look at this." My
Yeah,
son's
yeah.
doing the same. And you feel kind of guilty, but
Right.
you try to be the best realtor, the best dad,
Yeah.
the best husband. You just want to do it all. And it's not easy,
Yeah.
but I try every day. And I'm sure you do the same.
Yeah, no, because that's obviously the one, probably the biggest struggle, and especially then with like the baby and these things that you want to be present for, and like that's another word too. Like even going from last year into this year, like that was my goal, was like I want to be more present, not only in my family's life, but then also too, for the people that I'm working with. So when I am in these appointments or I am at these showings, I'm not thinking about the next buyer that I have to go meet or the next, listing appointment. I'm more so like, hey, let's enjoy this. Let's, talk about this. Let me get to know what you guys really are looking for. So then this way, I'm better versed in the next amount of showings that we have. And, I can like, remember when we talked about this that you didn't like? So this one over here has that same idea.
Right.
So that being present is just tough because like you said, I learned, and I think that you even talked to me about this, is that the second that you answer a call at 7 o'clock in the morning, you're now starting work at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Or you answer an email at 11:30, and then these people are like, oh, okay, so,
It's acceptable.
I could email him at 11:40, maybe he'll still answer.
Right.
So it's tough because you want to have that cutoff,
Yeah.
but it's not like and nothing against 9 to 5s, but it's not like at 5 o'clock, it's like I'm out the door.
Right.
I don't have to think about work.
Right.
A lot of the times, 5 o'clock when everybody else gets off of work, they're hitting you
start.
up like, hey,
Yeah.
where we at? I want to do this. I want to do that. So
Exactly.
yeah, that balance is definitely a struggle for me. And like you said, I think that trial and error is probably the most important thing.
Yeah. We do the best we can, right? Nothing's black and white. We don't
Right.
clock out. We're always kind of on call.
Yeah.
And time is the one thing that we'll never get back.
Yeah.
So you have to use it as wise as possible.
Yeah.
So
Do you have anything as far as like a night or morning time, let's say like routine, to where like is there a cutoff for you per se, to where it's like, okay, my wife might kill me if I don't we put the phone down at a certain time or in the morning to be
Right.
able to at least get your mind right for whatever the day is going to be?
yeah, I mean, look, I'm not gonna lie. We're watching Netflix, and I'm glancing over to my phone, and
Right, right.
trying to sneak, like maybe at like I got to go get some more ice cream. Let me pop up right back to a
Yeah,
text.
yeah.
As far my phone's always on.
Yeah.
I'm not always able to answer the calls. I usually hit people back with a text like, I'm sorry, I'm either in appointments or I can only text at this moment. And they usually hit me back like that. So
Yeah.
it's communication where I don't have to, walk out of the room and leave what I'm doing and then take a phone call.
Right.
It's more like a lot of these calls can be answered with a quick text message,
Yeah.
depending on who it is.
Yeah.
So I try to do my best just to kind of balance who's calling me and what the situation is.
Right.
And, but again, as far as like a routine, I never have my phone off. I know I saw you put something out where you try to like, you don't look at social media until a certain time of the day.
Yeah.
Again, it's looking at it is one thing, but then engaging in it is another.
Right.
So I think, to glance at it versus let me respond to all these people before 7:30 before I brush my teeth, it's not healthy.
Yeah.
Right. You want to take care of yourself first, take care of your body and your health first. Get yourself in the mindset to now attack the day.
Right. Yeah. And I've even learned too, like once I've started at least establishing, like if people will email, not really just text messaging. If people text me before, let's say like 8:30, I realize that like they almost like respect and appreciate where it's like, hey, I was getting a couple of things done, and then to go in a conversation. Because just like you said, a lot of the times it's going to be a quick response back, or it's going to be a quick something that won't take a phone call. It'll just be one or two text messages back and forth, and then they start to establish like, okay, like I understand that because I feel like every person wants to feel like you're probably their main priority, like you're their only client, but then they start to realize like there's other people that are reaching out about the same thing.
Right. And I'm kind of grateful and blessed to have most of my clients are almost friends first.
Yeah.
Where it's not like somebody sees me off of a Zillow lead or calls me because of a billboard,
right?
And they don't respect me as a person. So a lot of my clients look at me first as, a family guy with kids and a wife.
Right.
Let's be mindful of that before we reach out at all hours and expect an immediate response.
Yeah.
So I think it comes with setting the tone, but also choosing the right clients to work with too. You have to be selective because some people they just don't care.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point too. And I don't know if you don't want to go into this, we can always cut this out. But has there been a time where someone told me a while ago, as far as like firing a client, and I thought like that idea was like insane because I'm like, firing a client. I'm like, what?
Right.
But then as I started working with some people, I was like, okay, it makes a little bit of sense on certain things. And like everyone that I've worked with has been amazing. But it's like I've also I've encountered people that wound up not becoming a client of mine and realizing like I was not a good fit for these people regardless.
Of course.
Has that ever happened on your end to where it's like these people just may not be a good fit in the sense of like how I operate my business?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I don't think it was like, more of like, hey, listen, we can't work together anymore. Right. But it's more of like, I'm here to educate you on the reality of this market today at the time.
Right.
Here's what's going on. If you want to see a bunch of houses, I'll weed out the ones that aren't going to work for you. I'll do my thing for you. But if you're just not realistic with how things are looking, it's going to be tough for us to work together.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there hasn't been anything that really jumps out at me where I made a stance like, don't call me again.
Right.
It's more, out of respect. Listen, we're not going anywhere right now. You're thinking this. The reality is this.
Right.
All I could do is set the proper expectation.
Yeah.
And if they're not into that, maybe it's just not the right time for them to buy or sell.
Yeah.
So I've had those over the years, but it's always been professionally handled and friendly.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And
like even what you just mentioned too, just as far as letting people know and giving some information as far as like the market and stuff. I know, obviously, I'm curious on how you manage the shift from like, like that 2020 period and then how you're managing like the shift now, because I feel like it's in like the real estate world, depending on who you talk to, it develops like this negative undertone to where it's like, oh my goodness, like the market right now is this and that. And it's like, I hope that like those agents aren't having the same conversations with the people that are getting into trying to buy a home right now, because it's just such a good defeating conversation.
Yeah.
But on your end, I don't know, like how has it been? How have you been managing that shift from like let's call it like the COVID times, like once 2020 hit, and then now that things are obviously shifting a little bit as well too.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that 2020 mark, that March, April, we're like, are we ever going to sell a house again?
Right.
I'm dusting off my DJ equipment, but am I going to DJ a wedding ever again? Like, no one knew what was going on.
Exactly, yeah.
So at that time, we were all just doing what we can to kind of stay positive, keep the right mindset. Social media for all of us is a huge factor in what we do.
Right.
I was putting out those DJing videos and just DJing for the crowd that was sitting home because they couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
But at that point, I'm still out there just putting good vibes out and showing face and just, guys, we're here. We're all, I hate to say the cliche, but we're in this together. Everybody kept using that.
Yeah.
And it's true. I think we all kind of rallied around each other. When that kind of broke, in 2021, excuse me, the market just exploded.
Right.
Rates were 2.5. It's like, it wasn't even fair.
Yeah.
The prices went up 200 grand, but you're basically borrowing money for free from the bank.
Right.
So it kind of justified. Now it's a challenge because the rates are pushing 7, but the prices have not fallen. Right. So I have clients that, 6 months ago, just wait. We'll keep looking. Wait till the market crashes.
Right.
That 800K house is going to be 650. We're going to jump on it. They haven't jumped anywhere.
Right.
They're still at home on Zillow just waiting for something to change, sending me articles of it's coming.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know if it is. I think, and people need to move on. People need to buy homes for whatever reason.
Right.
So I'm never at that, that mindset where it's just going to fall apart.
Yeah.
And I think, life has to go on. And thankfully, a lot of my clients are educated enough to realize I'm not going to sit around and wait, throw money into a rental and wasting all that money.
Yeah.
So it's, I guess the phrase from lenders lately has been marry the house, date the rate.
Yeah.
Right? Get the house you want. You could always refinance. And it's true. I mean, ultimately, you'll have no regrets. You get where you want to be, and then you could always fix the financing later.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, too, like you just said, like the educational aspect of it is important because I have it to where maybe like some of like the buyers like that I've worked with have, I don't know if guilt is the right word or just like that, almost like that they feel like they missed out on like that huge opportunity. And then those conversations are a little bit more difficult because they're already at like a low and they're like, well, we are never going to be able to get this again. We're never, and trying to just get them to be a little bit more realistic and a little bit more present with where it's like, we can't really talk about that because that's, not a reality anymore. Here's what the reality is. And like, let's just try to formulate a plan with what we have in front of us right now that's going to work best for you.
Yeah, I think it's all about open communication, right? You set when you meet a new buyer, you set the precedent. Make sure they go through their numbers with the lender so they're not thrown off when they fall in love with a home and then they feel, they hear the monthly payments and they're like, wait, I had no idea.
Right.
So I think people, now that the rates have kind of been up on the higher side for the last, 6 months or so, maybe more, I think people are kind of wrapping their heads around it, knowing this is the reality now. If I want to do something and make a move, this is what I have to deal with.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, definitely. With I mean, I feel like you're normally right on time with a lot of things that go on and like in like social media wise, like you said, like during like the COVID times and they just getting on DJing and stuff, and like that was like a lot of fun. I know that you've been a little bit more active on like TikTok and Instagram. Is there things that you've added into like that social media element that you have seen? Is it more so for people to see like that fun side of you, just to be like, oh, hey, I'm not just this guy over here selling homes. Like I got a personality. I have a fun side. And is there anything from that you've gotten, a good amount of feedback on that makes you continue to keep doing it?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. In the beginning, when I first started selling and, on the regular, I would post just listed, just sold and under contract. And I'm thinking to myself, man, these people are going to just start unfollowing me. How boring is this content? I have to do something to just switch it up.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, you know what? I think people understand I'm a realtor now.
Yeah.
I don't have to keep throwing that in their face. Like, I'm way more than just that.
Yeah.
So here's a video that has nothing to do with me being a realtor.
Right.
It's just who I am.
Right.
And I feel like, in our industry and most industries, people are going to want to work with you for you.
Yeah.
Not whatever. You could sell anything, right? No matter what you're selling, you come first.
Yeah.
Right? Like you could all of a sudden become a car salesman, a genuine car salesman.
Yeah, yeah.
And all your friends are going to say, you know what? I don't care what Corey has. I trust him.
Yeah.
I know he's going to do right by me.
Yeah.
So show who you are. You're not this slime ball sales guy.
Right.
Just putting pitches out there to just try to win people over.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm just having a good time helping people along the way.
Yeah.
And then everybody's winning.
Yeah.
And some of them are creative and it's entertainment.
100%.
So social media has been everything for me. I started my business from social media.
Yeah. Yeah. And I took that that advice that you did.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know if you want to go into what you did because I basically did the exact same thing.
So first of all, I don't know how much your audience even knows about you and your come up because you're humble enough not to really talk about yourself. It's about other people all the time.
Right.
But this guy, so I met Corey while we were DJing, right? I'm doing 100 weddings a year. That was my focus. Real estate really wasn't even on my radar, or it was a little bit, but this guy, Corey, comes along, and right away, I'm like, this guy's different, man. Like, these production guys that set up the lights, right? They don't really, it's a thankless job. No one's looking at you. No one's talking to you. You're setting up the equipment. You're running lights for the dance floor. I would glance back at Corey. Normally the guys are on their phone. This dude was just laser focused on the dance floor, what I'm doing. I could tell his mind was racing. Like, what is Jay doing? What can I do to maybe take what he does that works, make it my own? And I remember having this convo with you, like, man, you're going to be something. I was like, you're just different.
Yeah.
So for Corey's audience, this dude is going to be a problem, and he already is. So congrats to you.
I appreciate
on
that,
your
man.
success and staying who you are. You've been genuine from the beginning.
Yeah.
Right? And I knew it right away. And you called me. I think you were talking about doing mortgages at one point.
I was, yeah.
Did you get into mortgages?
I kind of like dipped in a little bit, and I went through a process to realize that it didn't fit well with me.
So you took your skill set, your confidence, your personality, and you made it work for you.
Right.
And I think that's from day one. I knew that you had that in you, from DJing to being an MC to then meeting with strangers, them trusting you to hire you to sell their home.
Yeah.
I mean, you come a long way.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I remember the first time when I got into Elite Sound, shout out to Johnny Buds.
Johnny Buds.
I was my very, very first wedding was with you at Maritime Park.
Okay.
And I think it was a Sunday wedding.
Yep.
And I think you and Steve, shout out to Steve, I think you guys were saying like, oh, like Sunday fun day. Like, these are one of those things where you don't really know what you're going to get. It's the end of the weekend type of thing. It's my first day. So how clueless I was, I actually showed up to the office in a full suit, ready to go. Like Steve didn't even tell me, hey, like, just so you know, wear some clothes so you don't have to sweat.
Gonna be sweating. Yeah.
I literally showed up. He's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm ready to go. Like, let's go. He's like, well, we got to take all this equipment in. He's like, you're going to be getting sweaty. Did you bring anything else? So
you're gonna rip your dress pants, man.
Seriously,
you better fall back.
Yeah. So we got everything set up, and then I remember the first half of the wedding, like, you were kind of feeling out the crowd and stuff. And again, my first time experiencing a wedding from like behind the scenes. And then it was right after dinner. I remember you were saying something to Steve, and I remember you were like, you know what, like I'm over this. And you saying that in the sense of where you're over not having these people just like having like the best Sunday of their life. And I remember you just started playing some music. You started off with like, I think it was like a reggaeton set. And on a Sunday evening, I mean, these people didn't stop dancing for like that second half of the wedding one time. And like, that's where I was so focused in, because I went in there and thinking like, I could DJ a wedding. Like I've done clubs and stuff before. I can maybe figure out how to do this. And then I left there. I was like, I really need to do some homework on how to DJ a wedding, because if I was in that position, people, I mean, I would have had them sitting the entire time as well too. So
right, but even that translates to what you're doing now, what I'm doing now, right?
Yeah.
It's not always going to be a sunny day. Right? How do you adjust when there's adversity, when things aren't going to your script as you thought it would when you meet a new client?
Right.
What are you going to do different to capture them in and put it to, get everything back on track?
Yeah.
So that's the same thing as DJing a wedding. We're constantly looking up at the crowd, making adjustments and what's working, what's not.
Yeah.
It's the same thing when you're working with a new client.
Right.
You have to shift when their mindset shifts.
Yeah.
So I think that's just a skill that, we both kind of picked up along the way in the wedding business.
Right.
So,
No, definitely. And I think too, like for you, obviously having that confidence to be like, okay, I know that I can take some risks here, or I can try and like do something that may not be like my normal 4-hour wedding plan. Because something needs to be different. There needs to be an adjustment to what's been going on here, right?
And it all comes with confidence.
Yeah.
Experience and confidence.
Exactly.
And that translates to anything that you get into.
100%.
Because you've been there before. You know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And you're confident enough to take that risk.
Yeah.
So.
No, definitely. Yeah. As far as you, I only got a little bit more left. As far as you go, because again, I consider you a mentor. I hope you don't mind. I've been calling you my mentor since I started real estate. So
Appreciate that.
I was thinking, I'm like, do you have, not even like a mentor, but do you have someone who you've looked at what they've done, or you talk to be like, okay, let me, not even someone to hold you accountable, but someone to kind of just give you those like little pep talks for those times where you've been that person on my end to give me those types of pep talks?
So, I mean, when I first started, I didn't have anybody really that, said, here, come with me, let me show you the ropes, and, I'll take you under my wing, and here's how you talk to people. So I kind of went on YouTube, and I'm just Googling like, realtors in action, like showing a home, like what is that like? I came across a gentleman, Tom Ferry, which probably anybody in the real estate industry now knows who that is.
Right.
And I must have watched probably 300 to 400 of his videos.
Yeah.
And they just captured my mindset, my attention. And I was like, wow, this guy gets it.
Yeah.
And I would just take everything he would say and try to like incorporate that to who I am.
Yeah.
Right. And he always talked about, and I talked to you about this, be the obvious choice.
Mm-hmm.
We've said that many times. Right. What are you going to do for your marketplace for them to say, I'm buying a house? Oh, you're working with Jay, right? Oh, you're working with Corey, right? Like it's understood.
Yeah.
Like, how do you get yourself to that level?
Yeah.
And, now, 10, 11 years later, still looking at his videos, and I had the opportunity to meet him in person finally, like last year, exchanged Instagrams. Now he's liking my statuses, messaging me. It's surreal, but he was the guy that really, and it's a YouTube video, but that was enough for me to say, let me figure out how to make this my own.
Yeah.
So he would be the guy that comes to mind. Although there's a whole bunch of great agents around here.
No, of course.
Even in my Remax office here, there's people that I learn from every day.
Yeah.
But he's the one that stands out because I watched 400 of his videos.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that goes to show too, just the level that you're at to where you just went into just Googling and like YouTubing videos to be able to say, okay, like I want to do this. So I don't know anything about this. So let me just teach myself and teach myself the ways of what this guy who's doing it, who's successful, and then implement my own style into it.
Right. And I was with Keller Williams, which is another incredible company right here in Morganville.
Mm-hmm.
And they were, at the time, they were big on, here's objection scripts, here's scripts when you're on the phone or at someone's door. And for me, that never really clicked.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a script guy.
Right.
I'm more of, I'm just keeping it real. Like, this is an authentic, how I feel.
And being
guy.
genuine.
Exactly. I'm speaking my mind. And that, along with some of the things I learned from Tom, between those two things, I was able to get in my comfort zone and be, who I am. So I feel like for any young agent, it's all about authenticity.
Right.
Don't try to be something that you're not. You're going to get beat up in this business.
Yeah.
Never get too high and never get too low, right? I feel like that's something I wish I knew before I took this crazy ride of real estate.
For sure.
Because you could be on top of the world on a Friday night, and by Saturday, 10 a.m., you feel like you're not even worthy of eating breakfast that morning. It goes quick.
It's so crazy you said that. I forget what podcast I was listening to, but someone said about like, being on the top of like Mount Everest just isn't sustainable because of like the air quality up there. Mainly like making it a metaphor to where it's like you can only be at that top pinnacle level so long. You got to kind of find like this like cruising altitude in the sense to where it's like you still feel high, but it's more controllable. And you'll run into some turbulence. You'll do this, you'll do that, because that's one of my biggest things. It's just to your point is that I'll go into a weekend with 3 new listings, 4 accepted offers, new buyers, this and this, and then by Sunday, those two deals fell through, whatever else happened, and I'm just like, I can't do this anymore.
I'm done. Like, I'm going back to DJing.
I'm done with it.
It's real. I mean, that's what we go through. So like when I hit a huge deal, I'm not celebrating until the closing day,
right?
Because anything could happen,
right?
And even the lows, it's like at this moment I feel like so empty,
right?
Like a huge punch to the gut,
right?
And then you get a call later, hey Jay, we'd love for you to come over and discuss pricing. We're thinking of listing,
right?
All of a sudden you get your pet back, you're like, all right, cool, this isn't so bad, But ultimately you're right. You got to stay at that middle ground, that cruising altitude.
Yeah.
Don't get too low and don't get too high.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Right? And business it'll put you where you need to be quick.
No, it'll humble you. And that's the reason too why a lot of the times, like just to like humble myself, I'll check in with you to be when I am feeling like that high. I'm like, oh man, I'm killing it right now.
Right.
And then in my head, I'm like, let me call Jay real quick just to know what he's doing, just so I could bring myself back down and just be more realistic. But I also realize too, like in those low moments, is that I try not to your point, like even like at the closing, I try to not to celebrate too much, because I know that just to your point, now you wake up and back to square one of not having that deal going, but then also to like validate like, okay, that was like a lot of hard work. Like these people, we got them like the home of their dreams. They're so happy, and just like the kind of chase that feeling more so than chasing like a paycheck or something like that, because that's gotten me nowhere trying to chase money.
If you chase your client's best interest, you'll be on the top of your game.
Yeah.
People who chase money should not be in this business.
Yeah.
Because that money it comes and it goes.
Right.
Right. But if you're genuine to who you are, your clients see that, and you really want to help, the money will follow.
Yeah.
And I've over a decade of doing this now, and that's my mindset.
Yeah.
And I'm the type to take a few steps back if it's going to help my client go forward.
Yeah.
Right. And you could talk to a bunch of my clients. There are times where I'm like, guys, don't make this offer.
Right.
Don't buy this house. And
Yeah.
here's why.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not in it just like, I know I can get the deal, but that's not what we want to do.
Yeah.
Right. And here's why. And some buyers need that humbling too. Like, you come into your first house and you think it's everything you want.
Right.
But meanwhile, I'm going down to the basement and the walls are bowing. There's horizontal cracks everywhere.
Yeah.
I see mold. I see this. I'm like, nothing that can't be fixed, but you don't want that on your mark.
Right.
And now when you go to sell it, you're going to have to deal with structural engineers and carbon straps and all this stuff. So, I make sure, and I don't just say, don't buy this house, but I say, guys, look at this. Make sure you factor all these things in.
Definitely.
Because I want to make sure you guys make the right decision.
Yeah.
And they appreciate that. And if it's coming from a genuine place, then more power to you and to any other agent even listening to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, I think having their best interest, it should go without saying. But I think that is really what has changed my business around was, like, don't get me wrong, like those first two closings that I had and I saw the paycheck, I was like, holy crap, like this is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
But then also too, being able to really focus on what my buyers are looking for and strategies for my sellers, and just not becoming like a yes man to where they're like, oh, listen, I want to list it at X amount, and knowing that may be detrimental to their end goal, and not having just like that confidence and be like, oh, wait, listen, like that might not be the best scenario for you, and here's why.
Right.
And like if that's something to where like they look at it like, well, so and so will list it for this price. It's like, well, if it comes down to that, then like rightfully so, do what works best for you. But I'm just trying to let you know what I feel like is going to be your best scenario.
Yeah, you're providing the value that some sellers may or may not want.
Yeah.
Right? Some sellers want to hear, or they get told what they want to hear.
Right.
But ultimately, when you're on top of your game, you're going to set the proper expectation, and you don't have to come in with the highest estimate, for them to choose you. They respect how real you are and your knowledge. Right. Which is why they'll ultimately choose you.
Yeah. No, definitely. With all that then being said, what do you personally feel like is the hardest part of like the level of success that you've reached? And again, I know it's probably not the easiest thing to talk about, but what are the struggles that you see or that you come across or that you've had to deal with now being, which I can hopefully say, becoming the obvious choice in your community, in like the area that you're working in and specializing in?
Yeah, I mean, so it's tough. There's pressure now at this point, right? Because it's publicly known with the rankings that you put out.
Right.
Everyone kind of knows, like, okay, anything less than number one for Jay is he's going backwards. Yeah. So like the struggle with, do I really need that kind of pressure? Is it even worth it? Yeah. To be like, okay, let me wake up, not enjoy, kind of what I worked so hard for with my family and, with my wife and kids, and like, what am I doing this for? Like, I don't want to ever lose sight of that. Yeah. I never want it to feel like I'm just chasing a social media post so I could say I got ranked number one again. Right. But like, if you're not present for your family and you look back in 15 years with regrets, did you win anything? Yeah. So that I struggle with, every day. I mean, honestly, that's why I try to do my best to be present. And even when I am present, I can't shut my phone off in the middle of the day. Right. But my daughter's trying to put makeup on my face, and I'm just trying to do it all. So I mean, at this point, and I don't know really what to do with that. I'm still working on that. A decade later. Yeah. Just that balance, and I'm very open about that, know, and I'm trying my best just to be the best at everything. Right. And it's ultimately, how do you do that? Yeah. So that's the struggle. No, for sure. And like, just like the last thing to wrap it up, obviously, well, first and foremost, obviously, thanks for sitting and talking. Anytime. I always learn stuff from chatting with you. I think that you're one of the people that I look at as obviously as like a mentor, but then also as just someone who
is just an all around just good dude. Like just as far as work ethic wise, as far as family life goes. With you being at the place that you're at, and you've probably developed great relationships like in the business. Like, do you feel like there is anything? And I'm trying to word this the right way to not put you in a weird position, but like in a place to where if you're dominating your marketplace as a listing agent, you're going to have a lot of people that are trying to be as nice to you as possible, basically. So, like, are you able to know the authentic relationships and the people who are authentic when they're saying congratulations, I'm so happy for you, and not having like an alternate, motive behind it? Like, right. I'm sure you're at a place to where do you feel like you can separate those types of people?
And again, I think you probably struggle with the same thing. Most realtors do, because ultimately we're the top of the food chain. Right. Without us, there's really no lenders, there's no real estate attorneys, no
right.
title companies.
Right.
Like, so it's tough to say that anyone who reaches out to me is reaching out genuinely because they like me.
Yeah.
Right. If I say, listen, you've been so nice reaching out for my business, I decided to get out of the business. You still want to meet for lunch?
Yeah.
All of a sudden that invitation is canceled. Right.
Yeah.
So like, I have that sense in my mind that there's a lot of, almost anybody who reaches out is looking to get, my business.
Right.
And we have to give our business to somebody.
Right.
And thankfully a lot of the people that I work with, I've been working with, from day one.
Yeah.
So I know even before I was selling 100 plus homes a year, they were showing me the respect and the time of day, and those are the ones that I try to, reward in the end with the referral business.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if I took a cup of coffee with every lender that reached out to me, I'd have a bladder problem.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't be able to do it. So it's like, I'm just trying to really balance all that out too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, everybody who reaches out is ultimately looking to partner up.
Yeah.
But you don't get to the level that you're at and some of these top agents without having a strong team of vendors behind you.
Right.
So why would I change?
Yeah.
That's kind of like my mindset.
Yeah,
like, all right,
100%.
let me roll the dice with you when I've had success with somebody who's been there for me from day one.
Definitely. I hear you 100%, man.
Yeah.
That's all I got, dude. I'm super happy we were able to do this. I'm gonna put all like your social media stuff like on it. So if there's not anything else that you want to leave off with, this was awesome, man.
No, this was great.
Yeah.
And it's been too long before we even did this.
Yeah,
We've done it sooner, but and again, thank you for the opportunity. For Corey's crowd, this guy, I told you from day one, it's going to be a problem, and he's as genuine. I feel like that's why we connected.
Yeah.
Right. We both have the same mindset. Real talk. Right. From day one, I looked at you different. And watching you grow has been awesome. So keep doing what you're doing, man.
Likewise, brother.
Yep.
I appreciate it, man. Awesome, dude.